decided I've just deleted my recordings and my traces and everything, and we're going to just run it and do it live. And I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to press this button. I'm not even going to say what I'm doing. I'm just going to press that button. Didn't even check that I was sharing my screen there. I am, right? Yes, I am. I really hope this works, because if it doesn't, it's going to be tremendously embarrassing. It's not sharing anymore, is it? Let's delete that. Okay, it's just started these up, which is good. Still not going to say what's going on. So we have 3 traces, and we're going to wait for them to do things, and then everyone can figure out what's going on. Wait for something interesting to actually happen. So let's expand this one, and let's look at it's done. The agent's decided to read a file. The file is a scenario with no steps defined in it. It's been given nothing. It just has this, and it's equipped with only the ability to read and write to this file, to read the state of Docker compose, and to execute the scenario. That's all it's capable of doing, and this is pretty much all that's been given to go on. And it's doing 3 of them in parallel, 3 different ones. It's done some more things. So it's checked Docker compose status, and we do it in that way. It's seen healthy across the board, so it decides to go ahead and write the entire scenario straight away. Everything cool. What are the odds it gets it right? Well, it runs a dry run. The dry run doesn't actually talk to Docker compose, but it does check a lot of things, and it found no problems. So it decides, well, okay, dry one passed. I'll do a real run, and it got back the pass setting up, the pass setting up. These are also steps it's defined, by the way. Another pass executing the get, and then it's looks much prettier. And then it's had a failure, no output, but it had an error. And we'll see, what does the error say? Well, we wanted to have application JSON with a charset set on it, but we actually just got application JSON. So what's it going to do? Decides to write to the file again. So we're going to have a look what happens in here. It's written to the file again. And if we scroll down to where it does an assert, it's changed the expectation now to have that charset on. Cool. It's going to run the scenario again. Something else failed. It's got a duplicate key. That shouldn't happen, by the way. Anyway, we'll skip to the end now that something wrong happened. It's been running and defining scenarios, and it does this iteratively. So you know how we've had this diagnose loop. This is it, but it's all in the agent. Now, starting with just a phrase and giving it code context and database context, and I want you to test this. It is doing like that example where you just saw it have that SQL failure, and we have to call diagnose, and we go back and forth between the front end and the back end. This is it all condensed down into here. And it's pretty cheap on tokens, and it takes, that's a good time, between a minute and a half, but these can all run in parallel. So if you wanted to define 10, implement 10 at the same time, it would still take a minute to a minute and a half. It's all synchronized, locked on. There is a lock around accessing Docker Compose, so only one real scenario can run at a time. But everything else, the reading, the writing, the dry runs, it all runs in parallel. And the real running of the scenario, I mean, it takes milliseconds. So that chances are they're not going to impact each other anyway. This is not available yet. The part where we actually define the scenarios in a new way isn't done. So I will just show you for this test. This is what I did. I defined these three things. I just started with these three. So, you know, given a request, blah, 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 when retrieving them, return a 200. Do you know what would be better? I put a little output down here. We should probably check, shouldn't we, in the actual scenario, did it actually test what we asked it to? We should probably check that, shouldn't we? So we've said when retrieving them to retrieve them. That's me who wrote that. Apologies, not the best Englands. But given a request for articles authored by a user, when retrieving them, then return a 200 with precisely that article. So, oh, that's it fixing itself when it had the duplicate key. It cleans up ahead of time. That's nice. So it's kind of cheated there. It's cleaned up ahead of itself. So we set up the author. The author is the user, authorexample.com. It's picking great names as well, terrible password. And we set up the article, and we can check in here. I don't see it selecting an ID for it, so I don't really know how it could. Oh, wow, it's doing a select into it. That's incredible. Remember how we were hard coding IDs in here? It's been done a lot smarter thing. It's inserting an article by selecting that author user. This is brilliant, isn't it? So you can see here, got a user, authored an article by that user, and now we're going to call get articles where the author is this user. And lo and behold, we then do an assertion on the response, and it's asserting that. And this will only pass if that matches. The headers in the response have at least these. Obviously, there's loads of extra headers you can't anticipate. And it checks that the response also contains everything in here. So I don't know if you remember that we had a bit of a problem with non-deterministic fields, like timestamps and generated IDs, that you could not put a static value in here for this. Yeah. So the way this works now, and that the agent has this context, is just leave out those fields. So we're just checking that this response is strictly a subset of the actual response, because you shouldn't have to. And if it gets that wrong and it finds out that it's not deterministic, it'll just strip the field out and go again. And it's done the same for the other scenarios. I checked, because this is an optional endpoint, optional authentication. We did it anonymously, so we should see that. Don't know why it's creating a user. Anyway, and we've also done one where we check for an empty result if you've not authored anything. And obviously it gives a nice explanation. This could probably go like in the logs and things, or that the front end can consume, so it can explain its thought process. But yeah, that's kind of where we're heading to now. Once this replaces the diagnose and the front end running those scenarios, it's kind of it making the scenarios, is it running the test? And then you can also run the test separately as well, but it won't return you a scenario unless it works now.